let's do some sharing out. And if you could share your name, your pronouns, the club you're a part of, and then you, what is it?
Class year.
Class year. And then you can share what being a leader means to you. And if you'd like to also share what brought you to the session. I know it's a lot, and I can repeat it if you want.
Okay, so I'm Jessica. I am president of We Access and also co-founder. So my pronouns are she, hers, and her. So what brought me to the training session is to kind of learn a little bit more about being kind of a president of a club and kind of helping to guide a club. Because We Access is still, once again, very new. It's only about a year old. So what I wrote for being a leader was I felt you have sort of an equal playing field where you may have the final say in certain decisions, but you never do something unless you can sort of include your exec board, and you want your exec board to feel included. And you're also, in a way, listener. You have to often listen to what your members have to say and sort of guide them, and as a role model for others. Is there anything else I forgot?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Oh, me next. Okay. I am Will. He, him, his. I am the chair for Programming and Activities Council, as well as the business manager for the blend. That is still tentative though. I'm class year 2020, and I wrote for the definition is taking charge and doing what needs to be done for right or wrong, because you're always going to have to make some kind of executive decision, and it might be for the right reason, but it also could cause some wrong, between friends or between other groups.
My name is Sasha, she, her, hers. I am a junior. Ooh, no, not a sophomore anymore. I'm here because I'm president of FA and Emerson House, and I think that to be a leader means using the skills that you have to organize a space to empower other people to also become leaders in a sense, which is something that I've been realizing, and I think I'll get into this, part of the reason why I'm here is because being president of two organizations or houses that have a very similar mission, how to not conflate the two, and sort of take over in that sense. So I've been thinking about it more in terms of just organizing and administrating a space for other people to sort of take the lead in this.
Cool. Thank you. So, learning about delegation. All right. So, the reason we had you kind of think about what it means to be a leader is because that's essentially what your role is as a president. You're the leader of your group, and you kind of have to provide direction. And in order to provide that direction, you kind of need to know who you are and kind of adopt your style and learn more about your style so that you can use that as a frame of reference for making decisions. Okay. So I want you all to take a moment and look through the leadership compass. There are 4 styles of leaders based on this compass. There's north, south, east, and west. So what I'd like everyone to do is take a highlighter and highlight any sentences that describe you the best as a leader of your group. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. You want to do it? done highlighting, count the number of sentences you highlighted for each one.
Then we can write on this.
Yep.
Let me know if this bothers anybody.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody.
It's just I haven't had one. I didn't eat much today, so
Self-care is important.
yeah.
It's also noon, so.
Yeah, because he did not have a good morning.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So that's what happened to my breakfast. So he is not eating anything that isn't.
Well, I see all pens down and we can get started. Alright, so let's go around the room and talk about the ones that you're most aligned with and why you think that's aligns with your leadership style, and give us an example of how you lead in that way. So if anyone wants to get started, you can.
Is this just talking about the direction itself, or is this talking about the points?
The points and how it relates to
Okay.
you.
I can go first. Unless somebody else wants to go first. Okay. So I was kind of a trade-off between South and West in terms of points, because I kind of, saw that one of the points that says, while others been determining direction of what's happening, because I like to see that my exec board is sort of an equal team and that we work well together. But also one of the things that our exec board, I don't know if this is an advantage or disadvantage, all kind of consider each other friends to a degree, where we've all been in the club together. And we all really say, and I often say that, I'm not gonna make this decision without you guys unless this is necessary. And I also, quite a little bit in the West as well, in the sense that, I think it's important to be dependable on task situations, and that you need to be there for everybody, because I know that I've been there, because I had an issue last week where I have had to drop everything for something really important and leave it to my exec board, and that was not good of me. But you had to weigh all sides of the issue. So for me, as I said in my earlier definition, it's about being a role model for others and having an equal playing field.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Does anyone have a comment on that? Oh, cool. Thank you.
I'll go next. I pretty much align mostly with North, which like I kind of knew, and I think it's just because I've always been like very independent, and obviously they always, I don't know, that's just how I've always been, but like I did identify with points in other ones, like Jessica was saying, allowing others to feel important in determining direction of what's happening, especially when you have an exec board. I think that the only way that you can lead in the style that aligns with North is by depending on your exec board to support you and in turn supporting them. That's the only way to sort of be effective as a club or organization, and just including everyone. And similarly, with East, seeing the big picture, I think is another really important one. I think a lot of the points with North are very like individual centric, and you need that to sort of balance that out, sort of synthesizing what you want to do with what the big picture is, and what the overall mission and purpose of the club is, and making sure that everything that you're doing is in line with that. And also, the points that I identified with West, were definitely just being, practical and dependable. Like, no matter what you want to do, you have to realize that it's not all possible, so what's the best way to get things done in an effective manner? And in terms of decision making, just weighing all sides of an issue, and making sure that everything is very holistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
But definitely, like, the other points are something that I've had to develop, as opposed, because, like, my natural tendency is, like, very North-oriented.
I'm a North as well, and I find that, similar to you, I guess one of the things that I like to do is, determine what the mission of my organization is, and I don't like to determine that mission by myself. I usually will look at context as well, so, like, I'll find historical records of this organization group and like what they have done in the past. And if those don't exist, then I'll benchmark and I'll look at other institutions that have similar programs, and then I'll model my direction based on that. And that's, I've been part of like lots of different organizations, and whenever I've had to lead them, I've always gone from that direction. It's like, what is our mission, and keep going back to that. Similar to the ways that like some people stick to like, what's the constitution of the country? So like, you have to follow the constitution. Like I think my mind automatically goes to like, what's been written down, what do other people, what have we, what should we hold ourselves accountable to?
I have to say that, I basically highlighted all of West. I think I definitely really care about what people have to say, and like, I like weighing the odds and just all the information. So, some of that is weighs all sides of an issue. Try to find the balance. So not like trying to pick one side. I kind of try to see both sides, or I guess all sides to the story. And then I guess my second highest one was South, because the value words of right and fair. I think everything should be like fair, or as fair as it can be given the resources that one has.
Yeah. Thank you. Olivia, do you want to chip?
Sure. Okay, so I think I aligned most with East. I think I definitely think like a mile a minute, and come up with all these ideas, and I'm really thinking like big picture and things like that, but that can also be my disadvantage, I guess, just in terms of like I really identified with like some of these things, like can lose focus and maybe become easily overwhelmed and stuff like that, but I also felt like I really aligned with South as well. I'm definitely a very like relationship-based person, and I think establishing rapport, establishing a connection with those you work with can be really valuable, but can also be a detriment as well. I mean, I think like I tend to internalize things, and even like, or internalize like an outcome if it's not very good, and feel like it's like all on me, and I also like a lot of times things definitely aren't personal, but I take things personally a little bit sometimes, so those are some things that I think about when I look at these.
Absolutely. So, given these directional kind of ideas about how you can define yourself as a leader, really, realistically speaking, we can't tell you individually how to be a president. You're all going to have different styles and different approaches, and depending on your organizations, you're going to have a different way of your outlook and different goals. So, a lot of being a president is self-reflection and thinking about who am I, and then how do I relate to the other people in this room. So what I'd like you all to do is think for a moment as to how these skills can support your organization or how they can become a challenge for you. And if it helps to write those things out, you can. But just give yourself like a minute, and then we can do popcorn style and just throw words out there.
And going off of these differences, just really quickly, I think like the uniqueness you bring to the table, while other people have different strengths, like what you bring is so important. Everyone's different. I found myself comparing myself to like past presidents, but then, you have to think about the strengths as well as maybe how you can improve. That different is good.
So one of mine under overuse or style taken to excess, it says have trouble relinquishing control, and it says find it hard to delegate. And I think I definitely have that as well, as part of being a North, because you often have a very clear image in my head about what direction I think the organization should go in. And so sometimes it's difficult to let other people kind of guide that vision. And so, but I also have found that in order to be a better leader, I do have to kind of let go and let other people take the wheel.
Yeah. I also think that also with North, I can get defensive quickly. I think like Olivia said, that also goes with like taking things personally that aren't personal. Whether it's like an outcome, if something doesn't go as well as you want it to, or even if like there's some pushback, immediately thinking that it's sort of an affront, which obviously it's not, because everyone just has the best interests of the club. So I think just needing to also let go of that and say that we all want the same thing is also really important, and just like becoming more receptive to pushback and to feedback instead of taking it as a bad thing.
Those are valuable lessons.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
definitely. I think that's a big step in leading. It's just being able to accept, that nobody's perfect, and anyway, everyone has perfection is subjective anyway, right? So like, whatever is the best solution for one person isn't going to be that for the next person. So taking feedback is part of being part of the team.
Just you can play upon and really draw out the strengths of your exec board as well. So I think knowing those, and so maybe if you all want to take this material and do this with your boards, or something similar like true colors, then you can kind of assess where everyone else is at and like realize, okay, so like you're really good with these things, and you are really good with these things, and then that way it doesn't feel like, because I think sometimes it can feel like as a president it's all on you to hold all the pieces and to be able to have like all of these strengths, but really like delegating and allowing people to kind of take their own leadership within the board, as Jessica also mentioned, can really help you with some of these like overuse things that might come up, including internalizing everything so much, feeling like you're holding all these pieces. So
I can go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also thinking about, two things with me is having trouble saying no to requests, because I'm like a really friendly person who wants to try to get everything done. So that's a big weakness of mine in general, and also as a leader. But also being bogged down by relationships, which I often have to think about, as a person with disabilities and also as a leader of a disability club, given the current situation of disability services, where I have my own thoughts and feelings about, how it's going. But one of the things I had to often think about is, I've had to tell this to my exec board, I say to them, I'm going to say, I know we're all very bothered by the situation, but we need to be careful in how we say it and state it to freshmen, who aren't aware of the situation. And so, so it's one of the things I have to work on in my class, say, here's how you can say. You can say, I, as Jessica, think this, but as a president, this is what I need to do. So that's often something that I've had to think about, because I know being a leader of Reaccess, it requires a lot of us having to speak up and put aside certain feelings at times. So I often have to think about that a lot. And then I will admit it's being bogged down by information and analysis process and collecting unnecessary data. And I think about that a lot with, with trying to get my points across to the administration as I was working on this summer with my exec board on civilian services, where I was trying to find ways to say, here's why we need this and here's why we need that. So it's a matter of figuring out how you get the right amount of information, but get it across in a proper way.
Yeah, I guess I got a little bit from everything. So from the west side, collect unnecessary data. Kind of real world example of that was I was putting together a how-to guide for a job that I'm working like right before this, and I put in a lot of stuff that people probably already know. So like, where the button is, or like, literally like step by step, as if they've never touched like, computer before. From the east can be bogged down by a lack of vision. I ran a member meeting last week for PAC, and I was just like talking out of my ass basically. I had no idea where I was going with it. Pretty bad meeting, but now I put together something for the meeting. From the north side, may get autocratic. Sometimes like I feel like I have to boss people around in my exec board because they're not like doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is really unfortunate. And then difficulty confronting, dealing with anger, and maybe get manipulated by anger. Sometimes I let my emotions speak for me, a lot more than they should. And in particular, there's one person on my exec board that I'm like kind of mad at right now. But they have their reasons for doing, what they're doing, and I can't hold them to it. But I'm just like so angry sometimes.
Chat about that. We're here to support.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and those are some certain things that like, we definitely won't have time to go that much into depth,
Yeah.
but hopefully with some of the things that we will cover, that will give you some direction. And that's, that's the challenging part about being a leader, is like being able to like know yourself enough to know that like sometimes you do need to have a vision for X event or X meeting, especially if you know that you're not the best at that, or finding someone else in your group that like has that as a strong suit or a strength will be helpful too. All right, so now that we kind of know ourselves a little bit more, one other aspect of being a leader is knowing like what centers you. So if you turn to the next set of pages, this was pulled directly from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which was written by Stephen Covey. And if there's one book that I would recommend you read, so that you can understand yourself better and so that you can lead better, is this book. Stephen Covey basically spent his entire life writing this book, and he basically compiled information from leaders all around the world. And used a lot of these theories to kind of teach and coach other people on leadership. He's coached presidents, he's coached all kinds of leaders all around the world. He's coached CEOs, and a lot of the principles in his book is all written down in like, it's pretty easy to follow. So one aspect of leadership is being able to understand your values. So if you could take a moment and look through the values that are listed, think about what you care about the most and what drives you, and then highlight that principle. And allow that to kind of guide the way that you think about the work that you're doing as well.
Is these two sections?
Yep. So there's a back, there's a front, and then there's a back, and then there's that third section here.
Okay, so these two sections and then this one.
So see if you can find principles that like center you or that you care about. And if there's something that's not listed there, you can just add it yourself, obviously. So as you're reading through this, think about how these values influence the work that you do and how it can continue to guide any work that you do.
So these values is what you're saying. Okay.
Okay, so anyone not had time to think about it? Okay. So I know for me, I am centered on a lot of these things. So I'm definitely family centered in that a lot of the work that I have done is based on me trying to, provide a better life for my family. So me pursuing a college education, part of what motivated me to do that was because I knew that I wanted to be stable financially. So in some ways you could say that's focused on my family, but that's also money centered because I wanted to make sure that I had enough money to get the things that I wanted. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to get the car that I want. I want to get, I want to be able to live in the house that I like. But I'm also work centered, so I define myself a lot of times by the role that I have, and that role typically has to provide joy for me. Like I have to find that occupation like worth my time. But I'm also like I'm a lot of these, so I'm pleasure centered. I like to make decisions based on like what makes me feel good, and I probably say I'm somewhat friend centered too. So like, I like to think about what would make my social connections stronger, and definitely in student affairs, like I've made so many friends in this field, and like it was probably one of the reasons why I wanted to enter this field, because I knew that like a lot of my friends were going into it, so I can connect with them at a deeper level. Does anyone want to go?
Sure. So I guess the top two that I had were work-centered and friend-centered. I look to my friends for a lot of the advice that I get, and most of the decisions where I don't know what, if I'm indecisive on something, I'll look to them for how to help with that decision. And work-centered, I definitely always take my job seriously. In the past 2 jobs that I worked, like last year, my bosses like both told me that I'm one of the best, which is reassuring. And I guess those are the 2 biggest ones. And then I guess money centered too. Working 2 jobs, definitely got a lot of money. That's always good. Pleasure centered, just a whole bunch of them. I think probably the top 2 were work centered and friend centered.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those kind of connect with your role as chair of PAC, right?
Yeah.
Because you can find your friends there. You have a budget that you need. You have an opportunity to kind of put yourself into your work.
Yeah.
Alright. So, I was kind of very much so family-centered in the sense of how my family raised me, with the college education and being stable. But I'm also very much so work-centered. Like, I am very much so, like, my work comes first. Like, that is not something I'm gonna, like, sacrifice. And then one of the things I was also thinking about is I'm possession-centered in terms of, like, my reputation, because I care very much so about my reputation. So I often think, and I also care about others' reputations. And so sometimes I'll think about, like, if we do this, how is it going to interfere with our reputation for school? What's it going to make people think of us? And that's something I have to think about a lot. And, I'm also pleasure-centered in the thing that I like, to get things done that I think will help the school and help others. And I'm very much so friend-centered in the sense that I, have a really great exec board that I love. But I also, as a leader, think about the things that my close friend Hannah, who's co-founder of We Access, who graduated last year, did. And how she did things, and I think about, what she do, because I really looked up to her. And then I really related to a bunch of the principal centers, on this sort of what's important in the club, like what are values, what are missions, and what is the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are really great reflections as well. And I think it's really important to know and recognize when you're like possession centered. So like thinking about your reputation, and that's something that will probably guide a lot of the decisions you make within your club too. Like a lot of these, I can already kind of tie them to like certain decisions that people would make in your group. Right?
Yeah. For me, I'm definitely, I would say, work-centered. And I think it's because work provides like a nice, very comfortable structure, an opportunity for growth, and also recognition, all of which I guess relates to being pleasure-centered too. It also ties into being money-centered and wanting to be independent. I've been working since a really young age, so I think I've just become very comfortable in that independence financially, and also in terms of identity. When you are defined by your work role, it's really nice to have something to show for yourself in that sense, and stability also. And I think that, yeah, so I would say definitely work-centered.
Do you have any centers?
I think so. So I was looking at principal-centered, and I think that I kind of identify closely with that, but like through the lens of being family-centered, because of like thinking about how I was raised and how, long conversations with my parents, and also just like lessons that I've learned. I think, I'm grateful in that I think they gave me a really good framework for like how to like a compass or something to like navigate through life. So even when things are really difficult, I can kind of be, once I've had time to like process and feel however I feel about it, being more analytical about it, and maybe just like figuring out, okay, so like what did I learn from this? How can I like proceed forward? And that's all, kind of like guided by the things that I believe in. Of course, I'm not perfect with that, but by any means, it can be super subjective in circumstances and like really feel some type of way. But I think also I really try to stick to kind of like my principles and really think things through. Yeah.
So you all will notice a lot of these centered feelings of centeredness, like it really just taps into your soul. Like, who are you as a person? Like, it sounds deep,
Yeah.
but it is. At the end of the day, it's like, who are you as a person, and how are you going to lead because of it?
It's so valuable to know
Yeah.
who you are and how you operate, because then that's a lens through which you realize like why you're doing the things you do, and what strengths you can bring to the table.
And this will make you so much more confident. If you can walk into a room and know why you're there, that is half of the battle. Because how difficult was it to walk into PAC and go to that meeting and not really know why you were there? Or like what was the purpose of that meeting?
I was like, oh, is this
It's a
like
question.
a real question?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is hypothetical. It's like, well, I actually didn't know. I was unprepared. I was just like, yeah, I'll look at the notes, or I'll make something up that sounds good. And then I got there and I was just like, yeah, I can't think of anything right now. I had nothing to go off of. I didn't review the agenda for the day, which the secretary does send out every time we have a meeting. Should review those. But it was just like, oh boy, this is terrible. This kind of puts a bad reputation on me as a person, but also on PAC as we could seem disorganized, but really we put a lot of forethought and planning into everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. Right. So knowing your center will help you guide where and the decisions you make for your club, and it also remind you why you're there, what your purpose is, and what is going to make you feel good about being part of the group. So that leads us to our next purpose here. So I want us to, we're probably going to skip over vision for a moment and just think about mission statements. So Olivia, do you want to take over?
Sure. So, this isn't to say we're gonna sit down and you're gonna hash out a mission statement, but this is more of kind of a framework so that you can then go to your boards and talk about these kinds of things. So, a mission statement, these are kind of some guidelines as to, if you want to look through this, what a mission statement should look like. I mean, part of your role is you're holding the vision and the mission. And so the vision can definitely help guide the mission statement. But I think a mission statement is it contains more verbiage and actionable things. Whereas I think, a vision statement is kind of more like an overarching thing. But both are really important, and I think they can help guide each other. But I think it's really important, in your groups to look over your mission statement. Does it still work for kind of what you're working towards in the current times and climate and things like that? Are your mission statement and your vision statement in line with each other? Yeah.
And if you could think about your vision statement, it really is about what you want your group to do in the future. And your mission statement is about who you serve and how you do it. What are you doing right now? And vision is really what are you working towards? And usually the vision is something that you can't do, right? That you can't do overnight. It's gonna take a lot of time. So can anyone give us an example of a vision statement? Or what roughly, even if you don't have a vision statement developed, roughly what is the vision of your group? Why was it developed? What direction is it going in?
Plan stuff on campus.
To plan large programs.
Large scale events for the entire campus. It's probably the vision.
And what is the end goal? Because it sounds like that's
Fun.
that's probably part of your mission, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're already
Oh, yeah,
doing.
I guess
You're already
it's both.
planning. What's the vision?
I have no idea.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. But now maybe you can start to think about that. And this is something that you can talk about with your board and say, okay, why are we doing what we do? What's the end goal? What do we want? Maybe your vision is just a really entertained campus, which could create community and some other things. So and that underlying theme is what really guides you all to do the things that you do to to carry out your mission statement, to do the activities and put on programming for the whole campus. But you always want that vision, that guiding force, as something that helps propel you towards what you do.
Yeah, and remember to always tap back into your values. We talked about what centers you, right? So think about, if you're pleasure-centered, then maybe your value is to have fun, right? And then maybe if everybody on your exec board agrees that their values are to have fun, then maybe, part of your vision is to create a fun, vibrant atmosphere for the entire campus, right? And then, if you're money-centered, then, maybe it's about creating opportunities for other people on campus to be more career-focused, right? But my understanding is that as part of a programming activities council, you're probably, centered on pleasure, but also family and maybe friends, and centered on, probably those three things, right?
I would say for mine, to provide for FA, to provide a space for intersectional feminist discussion and activism both on campus and off.
Right, and that's definitely something that you can't accomplish in one day.
Right, yeah, no, definitely not.
It's probably something that you're always working towards, and it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to accomplish within your time here. But, and that's what makes the difference between a vision statement and a mission statement, right?
Alright, so for me, it's definitely a more accessible campus in certain areas, and an administration that will actually, respond and hear our thoughts, what we're thinking, that we're not just getting, thank you for your thoughts, we'll take into consideration, like they're actually listening to us. But also a legacy, because one of my fears right now is coming back 5 years from now to visit and hearing somebody saying, what is We Access? So that is my sort of vision, that we have a more accessible campus, and that our club is still here from 5 years from now.
And I think it's important to consider, does everyone in your group know what your mission and vision is? Do everyone in your group feel like they're a part of that and feel invested in that mission and vision?
I mean, we're definitely pretty much invested in accessibility since what we've been doing all summer.
And that's awesome. And I want you to recognize that not every board is like that. Not everyone is invested in that mission and that vision, and it's a lot more difficult to lead a group when the people a part of it aren't invested in your vision.
You want that solid foundation, and if you haven't done that, if you haven't sat down with your board and kind of conceptualized these things, that's totally okay. But a strong recommendation would be to just have a meeting where you're going over your constitution and your mission statement and your values and things like that, and just really recenter yourselves on why are you doing what you're doing, and that can also help guide kind of the things that you carry out this year, and the tone that you want to set for the year, can be really helpful, and also kind of unify you as a team, because you really feel like you're working towards something cohesive.
So there's this worksheet on the back of the mission statements handout. So the first part says what an effective mission statement should look like and what an effective mission statement should not be. So that's something that you can use with your groups, but on the back page, there's some information, there's some questions about what your personal mission statement is, and this can help you guide towards creating your organizational mission statement. So I want you all to take 2 minutes to fill this out. And then we'll move from there. Okay. All right. So, would anyone want to share their mission statement? Personal mission statement.
Alright, I'll go. So being an open and transparent listener, so being honest, but also kind of falls with my club's mission is to promote accessibility on campus by exploring students with disabilities while educating others, including those who do not have disabilities.
Awesome. Thank you. And that's a great personal mission statement, and I would suggest that these personal mission statements, you present these to your group so that it's easier to develop your mission statement as a group.
Would there be any way for us to find copies of any of these worksheets?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
You can take one of
okay,
these, actually,
cool.
if you wanted
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah.
There you go. And you can use this with your group.
Yeah.
The homework that I would give you all is to develop some SMART goals, and there's the next sheet over is defines what a SMART goal is and how you can create them, and then the next sheet over asks you to create some concrete SMART goals with target dates. So I would suggest that with your groups, next time you have an exec board meeting, set some SMART goals
Yeah.
for how you want to move
We're a
forward.
Planned Parenthood affiliate, so we have a lot of leadership training, so we have so many SMART goals.
Yeah.
We do a lot of SMART goals.
Yeah, we're going to figure out when to do this because right now my exec board is very stressed out.
Yeah, it's challenging.
And again, if you need support on that.
We're not stressed out with club in general, it's just schoolwork.
Okay.
Not a club,
Oh,
no, it's academics.
And even like some of those problems, like they can complicate your group. I would suggest going to your advisor and reaching out to them and letting them know about some of those issues. And if you don't have an advisor, setting up a meeting with SAIL or SGA.
We do have an advisor. We have exec board meetings every week
Awesome.
Yeah,
to
awesome.
organize the meeting for the upcoming meetings. But we just don't have time for now. I make it like a 30-minute meeting.
Cool.
It's just we're all very stressed out right now.
Yeah, that's hard. But yeah, thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us today. Was this helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have post-it notes on hand. If there's another training that you think would be helpful to have more in-depth or closer look at, you can write it on there and then you can fold it up and just throw it in the middle.
Yeah, we do get things done. It's just right now we're having our weekly exec board meetings and we just want to get those things done first before we quiet it down a little bit. But we do meet every week.
Thank you.
Is this all for training?
Hmm?
Is this all for the training?
Yep, that's all. Thank you all.